Future Now Show. Brought to you by the Club of Amsterdam.
Very welcome at the Future Now Show, where we have three experts and trend watchers with us. Karen Geronet, based in Amsterdam, Mark Petz, based in Vienna, and Kate Aquino from New York. Very welcome. And my name is Annegien Blokpoel, and I will be the moderator for this session. We talk about robotics and artificial intelligence with Kate Aquino from New York. You actually also have a virtual name, which is Miss Metaverse. And you are a science and technology watcher, and you've been in TV productions before, and you even have your own online channel on this issue. Can you tell us what is happening in robotics and artificial intelligence, and what does it mean for future workforce and transhumanity?
Well, all right, so there's a lot of different things that are happening right now when it comes to robotics, artificial intelligence, and transhumanism. You know, when it comes to all the technology that we're creating, there's definitely a lot of pros and there's a lot of cons as well, and it's a little difficult to navigate. There's no stopping the evolution of technology, really. It's a progression. We're progressing towards a future where, unfortunately, probably a lot of jobs will be automated. Just like how when we look back in history, there's a lot of jobs like a telephone switchboard operator and horse cleaner upper. there's a lot of jobs that definitely have been automated over the years, that's for sure. And I think that the same thing will happen in the future. We're going to see a lot of jobs that are around now that would seem archaic in the future. And back in 2012, Dr. Thomas Frey, he actually predicted that over 2 billion jobs are going to be lost by 2030. I think that's an interesting way of looking at how technology is going to affect our workforce, for sure. A lot of jobs will be automated, most likely. And another thing, too, is that these robots, unlike humans, right, we're seeing that the minimum wage here in the U.S. is kind of gradually climbing, and it's in some states it's actually $15 an hour, which is actually a pretty good amount. And I think what we might be seeing is that these robots might be taking over human jobs, and it might become more cost efficient to make that initial investment in the robot that can work 24 hours a day, be running on low energy, low costs of maintenance. And I think that also these robots can also benefit humanity because they can work in different environments that humans can't work in. And so when it comes to what kind of jobs that these robots will take, and that's the ongoing thing. I mean, when it comes to robots in the future and what the general public wonders about robots, it's kind of like a joke, you know, will robots take our jobs? And the answer is yes, the robots are going to take our jobs because, unfortunately and fortunately, technology is going to be automating a lot soon, and it's already happening. And I think that inevitably, although it's going to affect us work-wise, and this is definitely in the far-out future, it seems, but I think that our whole economy is going to have to change to include everybody in a way, because if our jobs end up becoming automated and there's 2 billion jobs lost by 2030, how are we going to change? How is this going to affect our economy? We have to make changes to make sure that A, we protect the planet, B, people can still have a nice life and be able to afford everything and have jobs in some way or another. So I think these are things to think about for sure when it comes to how robots and AI might end up automating our future workforce.
Karen, when you hear this and you think about leadership and a meaningful life for people, and as a psychologist that you are as well, meaningful life. I mean, if we lose all these jobs and maybe we have to reinvent ourselves, what we do, what makes us worthwhile, what do you think are the challenges for the next 4 to 5 years to help?
I think that largely depends on who we mean with us. If you talk about a group of a segment in the labor market that has largely had 9-to-5 jobs and in a certain way being taken care of and within the social environment of the workplace, where the coffee is served at a certain point, you can talk with colleagues, and where a lot of meaningful social interactions have taken place in the workplace. For that population to be laid off, should they not have intrinsic motivation and a very deep interest in a certain hobby, and a big family who are in the same situation, then I do believe that loneliness, isolation, boredom are going to be very common factors to deal with in a non-meanable context, so to say, where there is no real way of creating purposeful activities from 9 to 5 with these people. On the other hand, a younger generation, as has been mentioned already, often educated with outside of traditional colleges and universities, with great social networks, very free of boundaries in every way, can of course or will be given opportunities for vast amounts of creativity, which I think is very exciting.
So Mark, from the philosophy Unbound point of view, how would you look at this? 2 billion jobs lost while the population is growing.
Well, I could be very positive and say those people have got lots more time to plan philosophy Unbound jams, love-ins, riots, flash mobs. They can organise their time not doing the drudgery of daily chores such as cleaning or washing or any of the other things which people take for granted now. We can shove all that away. But that's a very utopian dream, and we have seen that robots already have cut lots of jobs. If you look at the paper industry, in the last 10 years, you've seen, if you walk around a paper factory, which I did about 2 years ago, you found that there were 20 less people than there were 10 years before, because robots replaced all the packaging. I'm a forester, and now in Japan they're investigating the possibility of harvesters being used for harvesting trees, so that it can be done automatically. We see warfare, the same thing happening, where it's being done with drones. People have investigated robot soldiers. They haven't come to place yet, but they probably will do. So I can see that many jobs will be replaced. The big question to me is what happens to the people that are not employed? At the moment, we haven't really solved this problem. We have lots of people who are unemployed. Increasingly unemployable.
Maybe moving it back to Kate, what if we upgrade those people with skill sets so they actually become better than the robots that took over their job? If we upgrade the people, what would happen?
Right now, there's actually 2 officially recognized human cyborgs living on the planet right now, and that's Neil Harbison. He's an artist that was born colorblind, and he went to these doctors and researchers, and that he had a chip implanted in his brain. It comes in like an antenna in front of his head, and that allows him. This device allows him to hear colors. So what originally was a solution to help him make up for a sense that we take for granted every day. All of us see colors all the time. Here is an artist that was born colorblind, and he always wanted to be able to experience colors like we do. And the result of that was not just being able to experience color, but to experience something beyond our natural human perception. And this has actually started a whole sound art movement. And I think that such things are like cyborgization are going to begin as more of an artistic expression, and also in the health space as well. As we're seeing, a paraplegic actually kicked off the first kick at the World Cup in 2014, and he wore a robotic exoskeleton suit to make the first kick. I think that's incredible, and we're seeing how technology is impressing and also helping us be able to do more than we could ever dream of. It's a very utopian way of looking at it, but
let's say 15 years from now, which upgrades would you have in your body?
I think, well, that's a little difficult to say, but I think that it's going to become very common. Let's say you go on a date, and 20 years from now, it could definitely become common to sit down on a date and say, hey, what kind of upgrades do you have? And that be something that people are attracted to or interested in. And what kind of upgrades would I have? I think I'd want to be able to experience things that I cannot see or hear now. I want to be able to tap into things that maybe other animals can see or do, and be able to experience more. I think what's really interesting is organizations like the 2045 Initiative, which is a transhumanist organization that is working towards creating the evolution of humanity into what's known as neo-humanity. So what they're creating is avatars that eventually, by 2045, we'll be able to upload our human consciousness into these synthetic body avatars, therefore being able to be immortal, and not only be immortal, but if we were to upgrade our consciousness into these synthetic avatars, we could also travel to other planets like Mars. We could do a lot that we can't do in our human bodies now. A lot of our problems now with space travel is that how are we going to figure out the oxygen, the food, everything like this. But if we are to evolve, I think that we will become a solar system-wide colony of humans, neo-humans. I think that we'll do incredible things that maybe we haven't even seen in sci-fi films yet.
Mark, if you say something is unbound, I think this is definitely unbound. From the unbound philosophy movement, what would you like to do with this topic?
I think it was great, the possibility to have upgrades and to go places. Something that I saw that you'd wrote about was the possibility of two people communicating with each other with touch. This is something I wanted to explore with philosophy, the philosophy of touch. Now, imagine if you could dance with the leading dancers, if you could dance with Fred Astaire, for example, or if you could learn many other things, such as martial arts, with the best practitioner in the world. And it's possible to do that if we use robotics. You have those kind of implants and upgrades. I do like the idea of being able to walk on Mars and the Moon, and I'd love the idea to go swimming in the Mariana Trench. So I think that would really change our philosophy, because you wouldn't be limited. If I think about psychogeographic walks that you can now do with Google Street Map, and some of those places are off-road. You can walk in jungles, you can walk in ice tundra, you can walk in all sorts of places. But it's still a little bit limited. This would be so fantastic, the places I could go, the things that I could do. So that would be really exciting.
So, Karen, if you think about that, it actually is this abundant possibilities, but also social possibilities. Would that then maybe solve the problem of losing the 2 billion jobs, and how we would, which actually only would work if we make sure that the money moves to everybody and not just to a few? Because if it stays with a few and the ones that lose the jobs will become very poor, then we have more, in a way, extremes. But if we want everybody to enjoy it, then the benefit should also go a bit to all, which means we need good governance. Do we have people that can do the governance in this world to make sure that it's being democratized and it's not going to the 1% that at the moment has all capital in the world?
I think that sort of power is migrating as well, as I said initially, and I believe that, and again coming back on what I touched upon firstly, it's about an expansion of consciousness. We have, up until now, still today, we tend to have a polarization also when it comes to our own body, thinking that our body and mind and spirit are separate dimensions of our existence, and I do believe that what's happening now is that the consciousness is evolving to a greater inclusion of the notion that these are all one thing, and that extends to us believing or starting to see how the collective consciousness and the collective unconscious as well is just part and parcel of our own consciousness. And once that realization has sort of really dawned on a vast majority. I believe that distinction between me, myself, and my own interest, and them over there and their particular priorities will be distinguished, because there is no difference between my interest, hurt, believe, and that of the other. It's a united whole, I believe.
Well, thank you. So this was the Future Now show. Thank you all for listening, and let's go and build a better world. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Okay, bye-bye.
Bye.